everybody, it's Thursday, March 20th, 2025. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast, where March Madness has a different meaning. It's me, your man, MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael F. Florio and Laquan Jones. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Like, we are recording this show. It is just after 10 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday. I do have two of the tournament games up on the side window here.
You and me both.
So I'm telling you guys now, I'm telling the listeners right now, if at some point I, sort of lose my train of thought or I get distracted, it's probably because something's happening in one of these games. My prediction for the first game of the tournament is not going well. We'll leave it at that.
That's usually how it goes. It blows up on the first round.
It's either great or it's terrible, like on the first day. So we'll see how this thing goes.
I don't know about you guys. I have watched more college basketball in the last week than I did the 4 months prior.
Absolutely. Because, all of a sudden you want to be an expert on high point.
I fully admit I know nothing, but the tournament is such a fun time of year.
It is, this weekend, I think coming up, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the first weekend of the tournament is maybe the best sustained 4 sporting days on the American calendar. I think it is. I get it. The level of basketball is not what you get in the NBA. That's fine. But the excitement, the kind of the pageantry of it is
more
great.
Competitive.
They're less skilled, like that jumps out immediately, but they're more physical. They're hustling harder, and like every game is like a game 7 to them. So yeah, the competition level is peak.
Yeah, for sure. Along those lines, look, it's late March, right? We are pretty much through free agency. I know there's a few guys still kind of hanging out there that may sign. We're past the combine. The draft is still a little more than a month away. It's sort of a slow period. I mean, I guess we could have sat here and, dug through analytics on, missed tackles forced for running backs or something like that. But I figured the tournament's going, why not do something fun? So I decided that we would do a bracket of the top fantasy rookie quarterback seasons since the year 2000. I thought about doing like all time, but I'm like, yeah, that would maybe dig us back into some guys that, maybe we didn't really watch a whole lot or, whatever. So I
fantasy.
That's true. So I capped it at 2000 and, we'll go from there. So I set up an 8-team or 8-player bracket, I guess. And so, that's going to be the show today. We're going to dive through this. We're going to make our picks. We're also going to put these out on Twitter, X, Exeter.
We're still calling it Twitter, man. I'm not saying X.
Fine. No, I'm fine with that. We're putting it out on social media. You guys can vote. And so what we'll do is every week we'll update it. So we'll have the first round that you guys can vote on this week. The winners obviously will advance. And then in a few weeks, we will crown who had the greatest fantasy rookie quarterback season since the year 2000. So just a little something fun to do on the show today. Because, look, I get it. You guys are hungry for stats, but really, there's not much happening.
Man, you could have asked me if we could do a whole segment on Severance, and I would have been down.
Season finale tonight. Looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun.
I can't wait to binge it.
You should absolutely binge it. I mean, after today, the season's over. You might as well just go and knock out both seasons. I was gonna say in a weekend, but you got kids, so over the course of like.
Right.
Over the course of like a week or two, you can knock it out.
I'll just say this, LQ, it is so good that I'm already rewatching season 2 and it hasn't even ended yet.
Wow. I've never heard of that.
That's dedication.
That is kind of deep, actually.
Wow.
For real.
It's my favorite show by far on TV right now.
I've only done that with a couple shows, so that definitely gets put at the top. You know what I mean? Like, wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's a great show for sure. There is some news that we can dive into. It's not a lot of serious news, but I'm just going to say I take no pleasure in reading this headline, but we must. The Vikings have said they are not pursuing Aaron Rodgers. And they are rejecting calls for trade offers about J.J. McCarthy. So it seems that for the moment, the Vikings are ready to go with McCarthy as their starter. Florio, we did the mock draft earlier in the week. We talked about the fact that we were all very surprised that J.J. McCarthy was drafted in our fantasy draft in the 14th round. I don't think
Rodgers was.
I don't believe he was.
No.
I don't think so. So I would ask you, though, I mean, with this seeming vote of confidence right now. Now, granted, I'll say this. The Vikings said they're not necessarily in or out on Rodgers. They haven't made a decision on their own. They're just, basically like, we're not texting you anymore until you figure out what you want to do with your life, sort of thing. Would you feel comfortable, or where would you feel comfortable drafting J.J. McCarthy at this point?
I still think he's a low-end QB2, but he's got upside there, right? So, like, there's always upside in the unknown, because look at what Sam Darnold was this past season. Like, if you told anyone, oh, Sam Darnold's going to be a QB1 in Minnesota this year, at this time last year, like, they would be like, why am I going to listen to this guy talk about football? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But, like, the weapons in Minnesota, the system, I trust KOC so much. He was getting numbers out of Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs for a stretch. So, like, I just think it's one of the most fantasy-friendly spot. It's like, remember when Brock Purdy first started? We were all like, we don't know if Brock Purdy's good or not, but he's in a fantastic situation, so there's upside there. That's kind of how I feel with J.J. McCarthy. Like, I would roll the dice on him over someone like Geno Smith. I think I'd roll the dice on him over someone like Michael Penix Jr. Him and Sam Darnold is a pretty interesting conversation, I think, but that's the range. Like, I'll take him over Derek Carr. I'll take him over any of these other quarterbacks that are going that late. For me, what's on that late? Like, it's Cam Ward, it's J.J. McCarthy, the unknown upside guys that I'm willing to roll the dice on. But Marcus, I did take a little pleasure in you reading that headline, because over the weekend, when all this Rodgers news was coming out, I tweeted, like, if I'm the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, greater sign Aaron Rodgers. And let me tell you, people were in my mentions, like, compare his stats to Josh Allen and all this stuff. Like, people still believe that Aaron Rodgers can be Aaron Rodgers, and I just don't see it.
What is the basis of believing that at this point, right? I mean, we're talking about Elon. I mean, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers right now,
Elon,
right?
I mean,
I was looking at my.
They have a similar following. That's crazy. That popped in my head. Like, they have the same following of Stan.
I glanced over at my social media, at my Blue Sky timeline, and I just saw the name, and it just like filters, man, filters. I don't know where you believe Aaron Rodgers right now is the Aaron Rodgers that was the MVP earlier in his career, right? What, obviously 2 years ago, he played 4 snaps. We can't really judge anything on that. But the last 2 years that he was in Green Bay, there was a noticeable decline. Yeah. Last year was a noticeable decline. He was once mobile early in his career. He is not that guy anymore. And on top of it, he just is so... I don't even know, ego-driven, egocentric. It's so much about Aaron Rodgers right now that it just doesn't seem like that's what you want for a team that does have aspirations of a deep playoff run. It just doesn't make sense.
When did this happen, though? Like, when did he become this ego guy? Like, I don't remember.
It was definitely happening. It was happening late in his Green Bay tenure. It was starting to turn that way.
Jordan Love, he went off.
The Jordan Love thing, maybe, yeah. That might have been a switch.
I mean, it just sort of makes you wonder. I mean, you got to think, though, this was always sort of in him, right? There are 2 wolves inside all of us, and this wolf won. Like, they battled for a while, and this is the wolf that won out.
He had a reputation
no, it's not a severance
of not being the best guy for a really long time. I think it just got swept under the rug because he was so good at football. Like, he's not a bad guy, but like there's a lot of things that rub people the wrong way with him.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. One other thing about it, and you kind of hinted at it a little bit. You mentioned, drafting McCarthy around some high upside guys like Cam Ward. I was going to ask you, Shedeur Sanders or J.J. McCarthy?
Not knowing where Sanders goes, I'll take the shot on JJ just because I know his situation is really good. Like, Sanders could end up with the Giants or something like that. and I don't love that.
All right. That's fair. So, Quan, I know how you feel about TJ Hawkinson, that you're just sort of out on him generally. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Jordan Addison. I don't think we've ever really dove into that a whole lot. But assuming this is JJ McCarthy, I'm assuming you're still out on Hawkinson. How are you on Addison then?
I'm okay on Addison, like, because like he's not getting pushed up in ADP in drafts. Like even in best ball leagues, he's falling like pretty late. So it's not like you're taking that high risk. Now, Hawk, on the other hand, like tight ends always get pulled up like notable names. And like once that tight end train starts going, you start seeing a couple guys come off. Hawk always gets pulled up for some reason. I don't know how JJ is going to be able to support all these passing options. Like we already know we are going to get Justin Jefferson just hyper-focused on the target share. So it's going to have to be distributed between Addison and Hawkinson. So it's just basically looking at who will be cheaper in drafts come draft day. And I think Addison ultimately will become the safer option there. So I feel like Addison can play a nice wide receiver 3 or flex appeal. Like he has the wide receiver 2 upside to put up some really good weeks. So it's more so if you believe in JJ McCarthy and KOC in this offense, and then you're going to go out there and get the cheaper option, have less headaches.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you on that.
My push.
Go.
Tight end bar is so much lower. Like if both of those guys average 12 points per game, you're loving it from Hawkinson. You're not loving it.
You're not loving it from Madison. No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I said this on our Tuesday show, right? When I said I passed on Justin Jefferson for CeeDee Lamb, and I'm like, am I doing this again? Am I doing the same thing that we talked about last year?
Yes.
And Laquan was very much like, yes, you are. And Florida, you're like, but it makes sense, So here's the thing. Sam Darnold, I think we always believed could support. Maybe this is me retconning this whole thing, but could support multiple wide receivers. I don't know that about JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying I don't know. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing to say. I mean, you just don't know the unknown of JJ. It's like you appreciate, what KOC was able to get out of Sam Darnold, but can he do it again? What I mean? Can he do it again at this high peak of where Sam Darnold was? I don't know if he even gets close to Sam Darnold's production that he had. Like if you take away the fall apart production that Sam Darnold had those last 2 weeks, like Sam Darnold was a QB1, man. That's great. But can JJ, as a rookie, wet behind the ears, know nothing, come in and have a QB1 production and push Jordan Addison, TJ Hawk, and Justin Jefferson into fantasy relevance? We don't know. That's what it is.
Well, and I also think the difference being that at least at the college level, we saw Sam Darnold do it, right? Darnold had some big years throwing the football. He had a 4,000-yard year.
Juju was eating it up too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he threw for 4,000 yards at USC. JJ McCarthy, his top season was still less than 3,000 passing yards at Michigan.
Yeah,
I get it. Different offenses, they were asked to do different things. But on the one hand, we saw a glimpse of Darnold doing it, and so you could imagine him doing it at the next level. We haven't seen that from McCarthy.
Does it give you the people that know McCarthy the best right now are the Vikings? Like they've spent the most time, seen him, all that, and they chose JJ overpaying Darnold. I don't know if that's telling it all to you guys.
No, I mean it could be.
And Daniel Jones left. Because Daniel Jones definitely had an opportunity to re-sign, and he kind of just like, yeah, I'm out of here. He's the guy. So it's like that is also need to be taken into accountability.
True. I would also say I think the Vikings had hoped last year that JJ McCarthy was their starter, right? Yeah. Darnold became the starter by default after McCarthy got hurt during training camp or in the preseason. And so I think, they were obviously fortunate that Darnold went out and had a great season and they were able to do what they did. But I don't think that was what their plan was coming into the year.
Absolutely.
It just happened. So
Yeah.
This is the time of year where rule changes start getting proposed around the league. There are a handful of them that were coming out here. The one that jumped out to me, though, the Lions proposing the elimination of automatic first downs for defensive holding and illegal contact. I think that's great. I know a lot of people on social media thought that was great because, look, if you're a defender, pretty much everything you do is an automatic first down except like offsides. Like that's like the only penalty that you can commit on defense that is not automatically a first down. And I don't know, as a fan, it's frustrating when, a team has 3rd and 12 and then there's like a 5-yard illegal contact penalty and it's an automatic first down. Like it just feels like a bailout. But my question is, I started thinking, Laquan, is this good potentially for fantasy football? Because I feel like, look, say it's 3rd and 12, right?
Yeah.
And and there's an automatic, there's an illegal contact. So now it's 3rd and 7. I feel like you're getting to run more plays, which means more opportunities for fantasy points to be scored. Am I seeing this backwards? Am I wish casting this too hard or what?
I could see that, but if you're getting the automatic first down and you're getting the yards, you're getting closer to the touchdown opportunities.
Yeah, but you're not getting but we're not getting the yards. Like, that's the thing,
no,
right?
We're not, but you're getting a chance.
You get 3 plays instead of 1 if you get a first.
Yeah, I see it both ways.
True.
Like, it can go both ways in impact fantasy, good and bad. Like, I kind of honestly want us to get closer to the end zone if we can get that illegal contact. Like, I'd rather 6 points for my wide receiver and then the yards on top of that than happen to try just to get a little bit closer, more plays. And then I don't know. I just kind of feel like I'm ultimately like, just give me the 6 points. Like, that's all I care about.
All right. I don't know.
I don't like this rule personally.
Really?
I see your point about more plays, more opportunities. I haven't really weighed how I would feel about it for fantasy, but I just feel like if it's 3rd and 12 and I'm a DB and I'm guarding Justin Jefferson, he gets a step on me, I'm mauling him. Because, all right, I'll give up 5 yards rather than having him burn me and give up the first down. So
I think we see that now already, right? Like,
yeah.
I also think they should change pass interference rules. Like, I think they should make it. I think they should split them up into, sort of minor and major penalties, sort of thing, right? Where
I like that.
Like, if you're you're defending somebody, you're defending Justin Jefferson, and like your feet get tangled or whatever, and you just sort of like, maybe you get there a little bit too early, right? And they throw the flag. Like, that should be. It should sort of be like college, because college it's either 15 yards or the spot of the foul, whatever is shorter, right? So like if it's like a minor one, you get 5 yards and whatever. If it's like what you're talking about, where like I know I'm gonna get beat, so I'm just gonna snatch you and just drag you down, like that's a major penalty, right? Like so that should be whatever, spot of the foul, an automatic first down sort of thing. Like I think we can do that,
because there's way too many ticky tack. I think I like your proposal better than the Lions proposal.
Okay.
Because there's too many ticky tack stuff that changes games, Chiefs. But there's a lot of actual times where I'm watching where I'm like, no, he would have caught that if not for the penalty. And ones like that, I think you should get rewarded the yard. So yeah, major and minor. I like that a
major
lot.
and minor.
Yeah.
We gotta get MG in the office.
Also, I want for my pass catcher to get the penalty yards for fantasy.
Greedy, man.
Yes.
Whether we give them the fantasy yards or it's like a point or 2 points, like drawing a pass interference flag is a good thing for real life and for your team, and it should be rewarded in fantasy.
Yeah.
I will absolutely hate if I lose by 1 point because of a stupid penalty that happened in the first quarter.
I mean, is it worse than losing by? Is it worse than losing by like half a point when on a kneel down? I mean, is it really worse than that?
You know what? It's all bad.
For fantasy, kneel downs should not be negative rushing yards.
You could turn that off in some leagues, though.
I like that idea. Yeah, I like that idea. Like, because that's dumb.
I don't think it should be negative rushing yards for the quarterback at all. Like, everyone knows what they're doing. Like, game over.
Yeah, I guess. Although, like, spikes count as incomplete passes.
So we're going to penalize quarterbacks for sack yards, too? Like, there's leagues that exist like that. Like, I would hate that. Like, no. Let's just keep...
I think that's more fair than... Because a lot of the sacks are quarterbacks' faults. So, like, I think... Yeah, I'm cool with going all the way.
No, bro. I would hate that league.
I think we should just have a rules show. We should have like an episode of this show where we just do rule changes.
Here's something I've thought for. I think PPR should be weighted. Like if you catch a pass like behind the line of scrimmage, you should get no points for it. If you catch a pass that's like less than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, you get half a point. 10 or more, you get a full point. Like that's how I wish PPR ran.
I like that. I can get down with that. Because like it does suck when a running back gets one whole point for like a little quick dump off where like
it's
for no yards.
Like all you have to do is just catch it. Like, because usually those throws, there's usually no defender near you. Just don't box it, man. Like and you get a point. Like that sucks. Yeah. All right.
A rule show would be very fun.
A rule show would be very fun. We should think about that.
We should do that.
It's not really news so much, but they have announced the participants in season 2 of Netflix's quarterback show. Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins. Do we really need more Kirk Cousins? He was on season 1. Like, is he really that interesting? Is he really that interesting?
I need to see the benching. Like, I kind of want to see how beat up he was because apparently he was injured. Like, I want to see what was going on. Like, there had to be a reason he had to go on like that 5-game streak of just sucking.
You know what's ironic? Not only was Kirk Cousins in season 1 of quarterback, but the Atlanta Falcons quarterback gets benched in season 1 of
That's right.
So
Marcus Mariota. That's right.
And they had no storyline for him after he gets benched. They're like, well, he's going to Hawaii now. Like,
Oh,
my
wow.
God.
That's wild. Yeah, I just saw that list. And I'm like, I mean, look, I think Joe Burrow's kind of interesting. I mean, Jared Goff is fine.
I think I would like Goff in this because he's like through the years he's been showing more and more personality. Like when he got drafted, he did Hard Knocks. He didn't know when
the sun rose in the east and set in the west. I'm like, bro, you're from California. How do you not know this? You're from California, man.
Like I feel like now like he'll give us more and like he'll start showing more person because he seems like he's just really, really happy with his situation right now.
He should be.
Yeah.
He should be.
I mean, there's nothing in life that has gone wrong for him.
I mean, apparently he's winning off field as well.
He's winning on and off field. Like he's in a place where like, you know, the team loves him. The fans love him. He's having success. It's hard to not be happy if you're Jared Goff for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I just saw Kirk Cousins. I'm like, I don't think he's that interesting.
If they do season 3, I want young QBs, right? Like I want Jayden, I want Caleb Williams, like Shador Sanders. Like let's learn about these guys.
They should just do rookies. So like rookie running backs, rookie quarterbacks. Like I would love to see like just rookies.
Yeah, I feel like at this point there's not much mystery with Shador Sanders. We sort of know everything that's going on.
Oh yeah, he's been in our face for like 3 years.
He's been, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. We know a lot about Shador. Maybe
we can find out weekly where he ranks in the.
In his father's father's kid rankings. Yeah,
insane.
LQ, Marcus, you can't really. You only have one, but LQ, do you rank them weekly?
No. I mean, I could start. I mean,
you should put it on the fridge. Put the rankings on the fridge so that they know to straighten up. You know.
Yeah, I could start doing that. Actually.
Like, hey, I don't know, man. That number 1 ranking is not looking so strong right now. Like, you know,
last summer we did a star system though, and like I might bring that back and just change it to rankings. Like we put those stickers on the star. Like, yeah, we're gonna bring the rankings back. Let's do it.
Do they alternate PPR and standard?
Oh my god!
Points per room cleaning. That's what it is. Yeah. So, of course, you know, if you are any measure of sports fan, you know, the NC2A tournament has started officially today because no one counts the first 4 in. Nobody counts those games. So the actual tournament has started today. I'm sure a lot of you are involved in all sorts of fun extracurricular activities around this thing. We decided we'd do our own bracket because, you know, never let the NFL not glom onto somebody else's sporting experience and do their own thing with it. So I went and I looked up the top 8 fantasy rookie quarterback seasons since the year 2000, and I seeded them according to total points. But I think we can talk this through because I want to also talk about some of the skill position guys they played with because maybe that impacts your decision and maybe we get an upset somewhere. So the seedings are the number 1 overall seed is Cam Newton and his 2011 season. He will face off against the number 8 seed Russell Wilson in 2012. Interesting 4-5 matchup. Robert Griffin III in 2012 going against Bo Nix from this past year in 2024. Bo Nix is the 5 seed. Justin Herbert from 2020 is your number 3 seed. Dak Prescott from 2016 is the 6. And your 2 seed from 2024 is Jayden Daniels going against Kyler Murray from 2019. So I want to look at the first two matchups in the bracket here. The 1 seed, Cam Newton from 2011 against the 8 seed, Russell Wilson from 2012. A quick overview, Cam Newton, 4,051 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, 17 picks, so a lot of picks for Cam. He did have 706 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns, 369.3 fantasy points. Russell Wilson, and Russ's rookie season was better than I remembered it for sure. Over 3,100 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 10 picks, 489 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 277.6 fantasy points. So Florio, is this a cakewalk for Cam Newton, or does Russ have a chance in this one?
This is like a 16 versus 1 in my opinion. And my one tournament take is 16 should never be in a playing game. They won their conference. They should be playing today. But look, Cam Newton, I think there's an argument that Cam Newton's rookie year is his second best season of his career outside of his MVP season. Like, it was the only year I believe he threw for 4,000 yards in his career. The touchdowns passing wise weren't what we wanted, but he gave us so much run. Yeah, it was his only season throwing for 4,000 yards. He ran for over 700. He finished top 3 as a rookie amongst fantasy quarterbacks. So, yeah, I think Cam Newton is going to be very, very difficult to dethrone in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a lot. And I look at the guys he had with him. Now, he had players with him, right? Because he had Steve Smith Sr., who went for almost 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then you had the backfield duo of Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, who combined put up more than 2,000 scrimmage yards, had 12 total touchdowns between the two of them. And then Greg Olsen, who was, I think, kind of nearing the end of his career, but still was very productive. 540 yards and 5 touchdowns. G-Reg from the 7th floor crew. But Laquan, I mean, look, does Russ get credit for not really having receivers that first year? I mean,
yeah. I was going to say that.
Sidney Rice was his leading receiver that year, right?
I was going to say that. Like, he did not have much to work with, but it's like he had to heavily lean on Marshawn Lynch that season, but he still came out the gate and hit the ground running. Like, I feel like if he wasn't going up against Cam, it would probably be a better, conversation amongst other quarterbacks on this bracket. But it's just that Cam Newton was like a cheat code that year, man. And like, it was just like impossible. And like, nobody has done it like Cam ever. Like, when we're talking about a mobile quarterback thrown for 4,000 yards, like, he's the only one to have over 500 rushing yards to go with that 4K. So it's like, the dude was just unstoppable. He just dominated. And like, having Steve Smith put up almost 1,400 yards is incredible to me. Like, it was a highlight reel that year. Like, I went back to go watch highlights of that year.
That year's insane. Like, I did not remember. Like, I know Steve Smith was very good with Cam Newton, but 1,400 yards? Like, oh my God.
Go watch the highlights of that scene. You're just watching it like, was I alive? Like, was I really watching this and embracing this? Like, what Cam Newton was actually doing? Like, the dude was bulldozing linebackers. We have never seen that. Like, that's why I was like, it's obviously he's the 1 seed, and Russ just gets bulldozed over in this bracket, man. I'm sorry.
I mean, I remember him at Auburn and just running people over in the national championship game, right? I mean, Cam Newton was just straight up unstoppable.
He became kind of a villain because he was just so good that people wanted to see like who could beat him.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the rest of the receiving core for that team in 2011. I mean, yeah, Steve Smith had the huge year. Greg Olsen had a good year. The rest of it was Legadou Nane, right?
That's not a real person.
The center from the Denver Nuggets?
I mean, yeah, I forgot about Nene. But yeah, Legadou Nene was like the number 2 wide receiver on that team. They had like an aging Jeremy Shockey still. Brandon LaFell.
We're kind of just ironing it out. Like, he threw for 4,000 yards. Like, how?
With that group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Magical.
2011, my least favorite draft of all time.
Why is that?
Bill said the 3rd pick, the first 2 were Cam Newton and Von Miller.
Well, I mean, you ended up getting one of those guys eventually.
Yeah, way past his prime. Hey, Cam, you want to come back up Josh Allen? We'll bring it full circle.
I'll say this, too. The other thing about that Russell Wilson season in 2012, he was not, well, when they drafted him, they had Matt Flynn, and they had just paid Matt Flynn a ton of money. Matt Flynn was coming over from the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, he basically had like one or two games where he balled out, and then the Seahawks gave him a whole bunch of money, and then they drafted Russ, and after like a few practices, Pete Carroll was basically just like, nope, you're the guy now. Like, that was it. And
He's too good.
Right. And then like Matt Flynn, I think he played a handful of games that season, and then they moved on.
That's hefty backup money, though. I know he wasn't that mad.
I mean, you can't be too mad.
He's still living off of it today, I'd imagine.
I would think so.
I sure hope so.
All right, so I think we're unanimous in our prediction. Although, I don't know, are you picking the upset here, Laquan? I mean, I know you're making a case for Russ, but are you actually going to pull the upset, pick the upset?
I can't. It's a blowout. It's a blowout.
All right, so Cam runs away with that one in our predictions here. That gets us to the 4-5, which I was shocked to see Bo Nix landing as a 5 seed here. Like, I knew he had a good season, and we were all Bo-leavers at some point. I didn't think he would be a 5 seed, but RG3. Again, I thought he'd be higher than a 4, to be honest, because I remember all the hype and all the excitement around his rookie season. Just 3,200 passing yards, like an even 3,200. 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 815 rushing yards, though, with 7 rushing touchdowns, 317 and a half fantasy points. Bo Nix, 3,775 pass yards, 29 TDs, 12 picks, 430 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 306.2 fantasy points. This one, Laquan, has the feeling of a 4-5 matchup. This one feels like it really could go either way.
Listen, the upset is going to the Bo-leavers because Bo Nix balled out, man. Like, I really was like stuck thinking like, oh man, RG3 did ball out, man. And they did have Kirk Cousins, in that 4th round to put some fire on yours, But RG3 did ball out, but Bo Nix was better for me, man. Just based on, look, you have to understand him coming into this season. Everybody was like, he can't throw past the line of scrimmage. He can't do this. He's played a ton of football and all this other stuff. Sean, like, he put all that to bed to be a top 5 fantasy rookie quarterback all time. All time.
Well, since 2000 at least.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, though, it's like insane that he went out there and do all those things that everybody said he couldn't do. So I think there's more of the story, the impact here for Bo Nix. So it just makes more sense to get the ultimate upset, even though he has 1 point less than Robert Griffin and played 2 more games. But still, looking at it overall, it's like Bo Nix just cleared all the haters, and they're going to be mad he goes to the next round.
Is there recency bias, Florio? Is it because like Bo Nix is the last thing we saw?
No, I'm not going to say it's recency bias. I'm going to say LQ's defending his guy because LQ is the Bo-leaver on this show. Like he's drafted him in both our mocks. He's made it clear like that is his guy.
Yes,
so I get it. It'd be like if I defended Josh Allen, but it's RG3 for me. Like, I think the part about 2 extra games, like if you gave rookie year RG3 2 extra games, he's sitting much higher on this list. I think look, obviously we all remember Bo Nix. We just lived it, but like going back to what won defenses, it was harder to score points 12 years ago than it is now. But even more so, like RG3 took over the NFL that year. Like Andrew Luck was a rookie that year and RG3 won rookie of the year. So I remember being insanely excited for him and like very sad when he got hurt and stuff. So if you compare his numbers to Jayden Daniels, they're not that different from his rookie year. So yeah, I'm going with RG3 here.
Come on.
Honestly, my first instinct when I looked at this was to go Bo Nix.
Ooh.
That was my initial in part because of just what he had to work with.
Yeah, and
not the Washington club, which was going by a different name at the time. Look, their receivers weren't great. I mean, Pierre Garçon, Santana Moss, like neither one of those guys were.
Pierre Garçon, I remember drafting him.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, look, Pierre Garcon was a good player. He was not a great player. They had Alfred Morris running the football, who I loved Alfred Morris, and
he was an undrafted rookie, I believe.
Yeah. And I was like surprised to see he scored 13 touchdowns because I felt like one of my big frustrations is that they never gave him goal line work, but that he scored 13 touchdowns is sort of amazing there.
If I remember correctly, like when he lost RG3, he just went down the tubes.
Yeah, it wasn't great after that for him. But Bo Nix, he pretty much just had Cortland Sutton. I mean, that was kind of it.
Yeah.
I put Javonte Williams on this list of the top skill players because, like, it just would.
We know you did.
It would have looked sad if there was just one name there and it was Cortland Sutton, right?
But this is why he gets the edge on RG3. Like, they both didn't have like great weapons around them, but it's just like Bo had less. Like you had Santana Moss. He was a good wide receiver. Pierre Garcon was a good wide receiver, but he just had Cortland Sutton and company.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this one. Like,
more touchdowns, second most touchdowns by a rookie. Just saying, Bo Nix gets it, bro.
I also do think Bo Nix has sort of helped, and you touched on this, Laquan, helped by the fact that the expectations for RG3 were so much higher than for Bo Nix. RG3 won a Heisman Trophy, right? He was the best player in college football, and he gets to Washington and the whole city is behind him. He was going to change the franchise. He was going to really elevate this franchise back to its glory from the 80s. And injuries unfortunately prevented all that from happening. Bo Nix was like, everybody was just like, yeah, man, this dude is old and he can't throw. Like, that was kind of the thought about Bo Nix.
Top 5 deep ball passer as well last season. Put some respect on his name, man.
So I feel like some of the excitement is about the fact that we didn't expect much from Bo Nix. I think I'm still going to vote Bo Nix in this one. I don't know.
Let's go.
All right.
Upset.
The 4-5 matchup, though, man, like it's going to be close. I'm curious to see how the general public votes on the 4-5 because I think this one's going to be close. I think Cam runs away with the 1-8 matchup, but RG3 and Bo Nix could be a battle for sure. Back to the bottom half of the bracket. And by the way, if you are watching this on video, if you're checking this out on YouTube, man, shout out to Kyrie Douglas, who put together these awesome graphics for us with the shots of the players and the stats on there. Fantastic work. So big thanks to him for putting that together and making that look great. The 3 versus the 6. Justin Herbert is your 3 seed from 2020. 4,336 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 picks, 234 rushing yards with 5 rushing touchdowns, 332.8 fantasy points. In a year that was very strange, right? I mean, you guys remember 2020, there were no fans in the stands. Not that the Chargers ever really have fans in the stands, but no fans in the stands. You had, you had people like opting out of games. You had people missing games. You had games being played like on a Wednesday afternoon. All that kind of weirdness, and still Justin Herbert went and balled out. Going against the 6th seed, Dak Prescott from 2016, 3,667 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 282 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 286.9 fantasy points there. Am I crazy, Florio, for thinking that Herbert could roll in this matchup?
Not at all. I think it should be that way. Like rookie year Dak, I think what made it so cool and stuff was that like it kind of came a little out of nowhere. Like it was Tony Romo was the starter still, and they drafted Dak, right? But Romo wasn't healthy in training camp, if I'm remembering correctly. And
back
then like
injury,
yeah, they started Dak, and then they were like, all right, Dak's playing well, we're just gonna roll with him. But like that made it really fun and stuff. But you compare numbers, Justin Herbert had 700 more yards, 8 more passing touchdowns, the same number of interceptions, just 50 less rushing yards, 1 less rushing touchdown. Like, I know his weapons were better. I love that Chargers team from that era with Keenan, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. But like, Dak Prescott had prime Dez Bryant still, right? Or maybe not prime, but still relevant Dez. He had Witten. He had prime Zeke Elliott. So
yeah,
the supporting cast is pretty close. I'm going to go with the better numbers and give it to Herbert.
The thing I remember about that 2016 season was at some point during the year, like midway during the year, the Cowboys called a press conference for Tony Romo to acknowledge that he was no longer the starter. And I just remember it was covered by our network, by a lot of other networks, as like this somber, sad occasion. It was like, it felt like, none of us were alive for it, but, you've probably seen the video of, Lou Gehrig coming back on 4th of July and doing like the whole like, today. Like, it felt like that, except Lou Gehrig had a life-threatening, debilitating disease. Tony Romo just lost his job. Like, it was covered with like the same level of seriousness as though, like, he was like announcing that he had to leave the game for like major health reasons. I'm like, bro, you still are getting paid. You're just not the starter anymore. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, I don't know, Florio. Does Dak have a shot in this at all, or is this a Herbert runaway?
I picked Herbert, so LQ, what do you think?
LQ, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I picked Herbert as well. It's the 31 touchdowns, man. Like, he hit the ground running. Like, he utilized all the weapons that were around him. Like, I just remember that year, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Like, that was just like his go-to weapons. And then you have Austin Eckler do what he was able to do. Like, Dak just had Zeke, and he kind of just leaned on Zeke having over 1,900 scrimmage yards as well. So you got to go with the numbers here. And I mean, honestly, how can you go against Justin Herbert that following year who throws for 5,000 yards? Like, it's just like, it just shows to his greatness of him coming into the league. Like, he was ready to go.
I will say I did not remember Cole Beasley being the Cowboys' leading receiver in 2016. I know Beasley had some good seasons, and he was definitely a guy that we liked in fantasy. I didn't remember him being their leading pass catcher.
Remember him as a rapper?
I do.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that.
When you guys were talking, I pulled up Tony Romo's career stats, and like, shout out to him, because his run from start to finish was 8 seasons, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember early in his career, I remember he was the holder on kicks, on like extra points. And I think was it a playoff game, or was it a really important late season game? He fumbled the snap. Fumbled the snap.
Playoff.
And he ended up having to run and trying to get he was trying to score a touchdown. It was right near the goal line, and he gets stopped. Everybody talked about it. But like, he also just missed getting a first down. Like, yeah, he fumbled the snap. If he picks up a first down, the Cowboys probably score a touchdown and go on and win that game.
Do you think he'll be more remembered than Dak will? As like, I feel like he was like the face of, like, not the league maybe. Because
I'll tell you this now, my uncle is a huge Cowboys fan, and he still lives in those Tony Romo days. Like he low key does not like Dak, and I don't know why. And I'm like, Dak has done everything right. He got injured.
I think the highs were higher with Romo. Like,
yeah, like I think the highs were like, we can actually get back to the dance, and like he can continue us getting there. And like with Dak, it's kind of like,
called it.
Yeah,
I'm sure your uncle still to this day would fight someone if they said he doesn't catch it.
I can't even joke with him like that, because it turns into like a serious football conversation. Like, I love you, Unc, but like, all right, rules are rules. He didn't catch it.
Oh, man. Kyrie pointing out, yeah, Tony Romo was the starter for Dallas in that fumble game. I think the other thing about Romo that was sort of a big deal is that he sort of gave the Cowboys hope, because they wandered in the quarterback wilderness for a long time after Troy Aikman left, right? Quincy Carter didn't work out. They tried to get a washed-up Vinny Testaverde. That didn't work out for them. Drew Bledsoe sort of late in his career. I mean, they were just trying to sort of patch it together for a while. And then they hit on Romo. And yeah, I mean, that turned into something really, really good for a while. So I think that's part of it too, is that like he kind of brought the Cowboys back in a sense, got them back to relevance, even though he could never quite get them over the hump all these years.
He was definitely more culturally relevant.
Were they dating Jessica Simpson?
Yeah.
Didn't they
and like Eminem has a music video where he plays the two of them, and like Dak doesn't have anything like that going on.
That's true. Very, very true. The other thing about it is our friend and colleague Akbar Bajabiamila sacked Tony Romo in college And,
really nice.
Yeah.
Shout out Akbar.
If you scroll, you have to scroll a ways, but if you scroll deep through Akbar's Twitter feed, there's a picture of Akbar at San Diego State sacking Eastern Illinois' Tony Romo.
Nice.
In college.
Wow. Look at them both now.
Look at them now.
Yeah.
Both big time TV stars in their own respective rights. All right, so yeah, I think Herbert is a unanimous on this one. I think he sort of rolls in this one. I don't think it's particularly close. Very curious how this goes. The 2 versus the 7. Jayden Daniels is your 2, coming off a phenomenal year. 3,568 passing yards, 25 touchdowns. 891 rushing yards. 9 interceptions also. 891 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 355.8 fantasy points versus Kyler Murray. From 2019, at 3,722 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 544 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 285.3 passing yards. I want this to be close in my head, but it's not going to be close, is it, Laquan? It's not.
No, it's not. Can we just say it together? It's clearly Jayden Daniels.
It's clearly Jayden Daniels, right?
He has a chance to win the whole damn thing. Like, I mean, honestly, like it's not
it's him or Cam, I think.
It's crazy though.
So that's the thing, right? I mean, Laquan, you are currently wearing a Jayden Daniels t-shirt
from Fantasy Fits.
Florio, you have a shout out Fantasy Fits. Florio, you have been on the Jayden Daniels bandwagon since day one. Poor Kyler. He didn't stand a chance in this.
I loved Kyler as a rookie too. Like,
yeah, we all did.
Yeah. I think this is the season that everybody holds on to, that he can hit higher in his projections.
Well, this one, or I think it was it 2020, where he ran for the year he ran for 800 yards, because that was like,
because he had to.
I mean, he kind of did have to. Yeah, the 2020 season, 819 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. And I think everybody's like, oh, all right, well, Kyler's that guy. Like, you know.
Was that his best passing year too? Because that was when he had D-Hop, right?
It was 3,900 yards that year. Yeah. He's never had a 4,000 yard season.
Career high in passing. So yeah, that is the year we're all like, this guy is who we thought he was.
We've been chasing that dragon ever since then.
It's been 5 years.
I kind of do hope that it comes down to Cam versus Jayden, because I think there's a strong argument to be made that Cam Newton had the best fantasy rookie season ever, but Jayden Daniels had the best real life rookie season ever.
More wow moments for sure. More like, what the heck?
I mean, especially you have the Hail Mary that was sort of the big highlight of the year. But even what he did in the playoffs, I mean, the way he just ran through.
He went to the
Lions
and
not only that, like, I think he legitimately could have kept up with the Eagles. If, like, there was a stretch in that game where he scored the touchdown. They were down 1 or 2, I think. And the next time he touched the ball, they were down 3 scores because they just kept fumbling. Like,
yeah.
So he put up a better fight than Mahomes did.
Yeah,
but not better than the Rams, because we would have knocked both them off.
I
mean, if it just never snowed. It has a ring right now.
This is why I hate snow, and this is why I'm never returning back to live in New Jersey. That why I hate snow, and let's not get into a Rams rant right now. I literally almost punched my camera.
That would have been great television. That would have been great internet if you had done that.
Just podcast over, just
a complete crash out.
So, I mean, for the most part, this is sort of a chalky bracket. I mean, there's a chance Knicks could pull the upset in the 4-5.
Dak's going to have Cowboy Nation riding with him, and Herbert's going to have no fans, so...
That's the thing, right? Like, if we're doing this by fan bases, like, Justin Herbert's got great numbers. Here's the thing. I think Herbert has a chance. Maybe he doesn't beat Jayden Daniels, but I think a Herbert-Daniels matchup could be really interesting. I think it could be a fun second-round matchup. The question is, if we're doing this based on fan bases, Herbert might not get the support to get out of the first round.
Yeah. And I hope folks don't like account for like outside of fantasy and like they go, oh well, their record was this year because like
no, don't worry. But records don't matter. This is fantasy strictly, y'all. This is strictly fantasy production.
But if it's Dak versus Jayden, we might get an NFC East war in March. You know,
Washington, Dallas, kind of rivalry matchup. That could be interesting.
That'll be so toxic in the comments.
I kind of hope. I really, the one I want to see is RG3 versus Jayden Daniels. Like, to me, that would be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a fun matchup. The problem is RG3 might not get past Knicks. That's the hard part with that one. But honestly, I think an RG3 Cam matchup, I think Cam rolls. He's the number one overall seed for a reason. Yeah. But it's an interesting conversation, a Cam versus RG3 matchup, because, they came in the league within a year of each other. They were both expected to sort of revolutionize the quarterback position. Unfortunately for Griffin, we never really got to see that, through no fault of his own. But I mean, stylistically, they were very different because Cam is just a mountain of a person.
He hurt linebackers.
Yeah, Robert Griffin is at least built more like a normal everyday human being. Not the same with Cam Newton for sure.
Two things. One, I was shocked Andrew Luck was not top 8. I think he has the record for most passing yards as a rookie. But also, I know he didn't start his rookie year, but the first year and a half that Lamar Jackson was the starter is arguably the greatest year and a half stretch of fantasy quarterback play. Yeah,
that was great. I'm trying to think. There were guys who had great quarterback stretches. Vince Young had a great stretch. He didn't necessarily have a great career, but early on with Tennessee, he had those huge comebacks, and he obviously was very mobile. He had a really, really good run early on, but it was just never sustained. And as a passer, he just never really developed. I'm trying to think who else had a really good quarterback run. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger didn't put up stats. He just won games.
Oh, yeah. He was a winner, but
you're right. That was the thing.
QB wins really
statistically, he was fine. Because Ben Roethlisberger was never, I don't think aesthetically pleasing to watch, but it was effective. He was it was like tackling a building, trying to tackle him,
that was CJ Stroud's rookie year, man.
CJ Stroud, his rookie year, I'm surprised that didn't make it in there.
Peyton Manning having one of the worst rookie years always is funny to me.
Dude,
because then he just turned it on after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just all right, now I know what's going on. And
28 interceptions.
28 interceptions is insane. Just stop throwing the ball. Stop. Stop after 20, dude.
I mean, yeah, but I don't even know. I don't even know who else was behind him on that roster at quarterback that they would have even turned to.
Let's see. I have his reference page up, so I'm pulling up the 98 Colts. Torrance Small.
Yeah, but Torrance Small was a wide receiver who just threw a couple of passes.
He had one pass. Manning led the league in pass attempts that year as a rookie.
Yeah.
Stop throwing the ball.
Just here you go.
I think he was. I'm looking at this. He might have been. He's currently listed, at least on Pro Football Reference, as the only quarterback on the roster. That can't be right. They had
we cannot give Winston crap anymore, man. This was a terrible year.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can, because Peyton didn't throw 30 interceptions.
Almost.
Almost horseshoes and hand grenades, man. Almost. That's it.
Winston had more touchdowns, though. Just saying.
Stop throwing the ball. Stop throwing the ball.
I forgot that Manning and Marshall Faulk played together 1 year.
1 year. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yep. Before Marshall went off to the Rams.
Yeah, his glory days.
No good happened there.
Come on.
LQ, is that the reason you're a Rams fan? Because of that team?
So the Rams were the first literally football team I watched on TV at my dad's house, and they were just entertaining. Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, man. I mean, Torrey Holt. How could you not fall in love with that arsenal of an offense?
Because I was a 49er fan.
Did you hate them then? They were in St. Louis, right?
No, I didn't start hating them until internet.
They were still in the division. I mean, they're still a division rival, and they'd had all those years in Los Angeles, and they were rivals there. And also that was like when they started getting good. Because like from my childhood, like in the 80s, the Rams weren't ever really good. There was one year where they went to the NFC Championship game and the Niners kind of smacked them. But for the most part, like it was kind of a one-sided rivalry for most of my childhood. And then all of a sudden in the 90s, they go to St. Louis and then they put together this greatest show on turf and they get good and they start challenging them. And then it's like, wait, what is this?
What is happening?
You're the Rams. What is happening here? So like, yeah, I mean, I get it. They were like objectively were fun to watch. But no, also, that was also when the Niners were the only they were the only NFC West team actually in the West.
Yeah, it's like when Detroit used to be in the West. Like, no.
Yeah. Change divisions. Just change it up. Roulette it.
Yeah, NFL geography used to not be great.
Let's go back to that, man. Just change it up.
Like the Cowboys have no business being in the East, if we're being honest. All of those teams are like a 2-hour drive from one another. And then they're in the Southwest. Like
that was strictly to maintain rivalries. That's really all that was. That was it. I mean, similarly to why, what was it? The Indianapolis Colts are in the AFC South, just because, they wanted to keep the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals together. And the Colts were sort of the odd team out there, and they got moved to the AFC South.
I get it, because I've seen people be like, let's rebrand the divisions and put like the Jets, Giants, Bills, and like Steelers in one. And I'm like, no, I would hate that. Like,
man, randomize it, man. Every 4 years, just randomize it. Let's go.
The other thing that sort of lost out, because like the AFC West had nothing but rivals. I mean, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders were all rivals. But then so were the Seahawks. But I guess the Seahawks sort of got screwed. Not only did they get moved out of the AFC West, they got moved all the way to the NFC altogether. I mean, when I was a kid, Raiders-Seahawks was a division rivalry game. Like that was a thing. But I guess they didn't make the cut some kind of way. I don't know. See Isaiah Thomas. I met the criteria, but I was not selected. That's kind of what that is. All right, we're getting a little loopy. Probably time to pull the chute on this one. But anyway, go vote. We will have the polls up on the NFL Fantasy Twitter feed. You can go vote for all the first round matchups, and then next week we'll come back next Thursday, because that's when the next round of the NC2A tournament will start. So next Thursday, we will get you with round 2 of this, and we'll see who makes it through, and you can keep voting on the best fantasy rookie quarterback season since 2000. In the meantime, that'll do it for this edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. Do good and live well. Enjoy the tournament, everybody. Should be a whole lot of fun, and we will talk to you again next week.